Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have Tom Sims, 4-year age. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. I bought this in Texas. It was $9.99. My friend David said he didn't care for it. I thought there was nothing wrong with it, you know. The competitor is Beam Repeal Batch. This was $12.97 at Walmart. I think it's a little higher in other places. In fact, I've seen it for like $17.99 at Albertsons. So it depends where you go. It could be a rather big price difference. $5 price difference. Okay. So let's see. This is about 4 years old, but there's no age statement. It's a minimum of 4 years because there's no age statement. And if you check the liquor laws, a whiskey that has no age statement in the United States has to be at least 4 years old. Now, to be straight bourbon, it only has to be aged 2 years. But if there's no age statement, then it's a minimum of 4. All right. So I think it's going to be a pretty close contest. Now, the Jim Beam is non-chill filter. They're making a big thing out of that. It's 86 proof. Does that make a difference, chill filter and non-chill filter? I don't really know. I haven't, in my perception, I haven't really noticed much difference, but I probably don't know enough about it. You know, about tasting whiskey. Good morning, Ron, says Maxwell. Good morning to you. Now, if people do claim that it makes a big difference, then I would like to see them do a blind taste test and see if they can really tell it apart. Now, of course, it would have to be really, this taste test is kind of a ride because we're doing 80 to 86 proof, right? 40% alcohol or 43. So that's already kind of off. But, you know, take 2 bourbon whiskeys or whatever one you want to try style, and same proof, same general age statement, 1 non-chill filtered, 1 chill filtered, and blind taste test them. Not just once, because that could be an occasion and it just happened. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. So let's say you do it 10 times, and every time you know, oh, that's the non-chill filter one. I could tell the quality. Okay, well, that will establish some reliability. But if you're doing it 10 times, you get 5 times right and 5 times wrong. That's telling me that the chill filter doesn't really make any appreciable difference. But I'd like to see somebody do those challenges. Am I going to see that? I seriously doubt it. All right. I think the main tip off here, I was doing those rooster sound effects earlier. I don't think I'll do that too much, but it's just funny. James P. Madonna was saying, you ought to do that. And I said, that's kind of a funny idea, you know, morning time, roosters crowing. There used to be a man lived around the corner from me. He raised them. They would wake me up every morning. You know, it didn't matter how tired you were, how late you went to sleep. Right around this time, really earlier than this, maybe 4:30. There's something in their mind, they would start crowing, you know. They just knew, like, it's daytime coming, and they had to wake everybody up. And remember, before the cock crows twice, you'll betray me. You'll deny me 3 times. Remember, Jesus said that to Peter. Before the cock crows 3 times, I mean, before the cock crows twice, you'll deny me 3 times. And Peter said, no, no, not me. I'll die first. But it was all talk, you know, because when the chips were down, what did St. Peter do? Denied he even knew Jesus. And then he was the first pope. So just goes to show you how weak we can be. All right. Okay. So went to Mardi Gras Tuesday after Dawn Busters. Well, quite a few hours after Dawn Busters, and saw Zulu for as much as I could tolerate. And then went to David's. We did beer reviews because he's given up drinking for Lent. So he's like, let's get him in before it's over. I said, okay. And then so now it's Lent. Yes, I did give up something for Lent. Okay. So we try to be holier. We want to have more, like, think about our lives. I did not get the ashes. I was working yesterday, and but I do accept the principle: from ashes you came, and from ashes you'll return. Dust to dust. Okay. Gold, sort of copper, amber, and this is more gold, less copper. So the Tom Sims has a little more copperness to it. And there's no color added. They cannot. Straight bourbon cannot have coloring added, cannot have flavoring added. All right. Even bourbon can't. You see, there's 2 types. There's bourbon, then there's straight bourbon. There isn't much difference between the 2 except for one important factor. Straight bourbon has to be aged in new white, well, not white oak, but that's usually what they use. New oak barrels, charred oak barrels for at least 2 years. Bourbon has to be aged in charred oak barrels. Notice I didn't mention a time period because there is no qualification there. No qualification. So in theory, you could age it for 1 day in an oak barrel, charred, never before used, and that's bourbon. No one would buy it, I'm sure, because it would be clear, or nearly clear, or maybe yellow. People would say, "Ooh." I mean, that would be a gimmick, right? Day old bourbon. You know, oh, hey. You say, well, the way it's going these days with beer, wine, and liquor, they might have a market for that. Day old bourbon. The youngest. And then they promote it. This is the youngest bourbon you can get. People say, I gotta go get it. I got it. I did the first video review in the world. All right, whatever. Blended bourbon can have coloring added. Blended bourbon. You say, what? Yes, there's a style, a category, legal U.S. government, legal category called blended bourbon. It may have color added. It may have flavoring added. As long as it's 51% straight bourbon. Has to be 51% straight bourbon. The other 49% can be could just be grain spirits, unaged corn liquor, which you could make bourbon out of, but it has to be or it could be wheat, whatever you want to use. Okay, anyway, all right, you say, well, this is not about blended bourbon. This is a taste challenge, so why are you going on about it? I know, just like I used to be a teacher, so I'm always trying, like, got that natural inclination to want to give out information, whether people want it or not. You understand? I know they probably say, oh, no. Now, okay. I'm going to try to not glance at them because there is a color difference. It's not profound, but it's there. And I have one more bourbon after this. I have the Bellows Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And an incredible price. It's a liter bottle, and I got it for $5.99 at Savannah discount. Is that the cheapest I'll ever find straight bourbon whiskey? I would say yes. I don't know how on earth I could ever find it cheaper than that. You know, like, how could that happen? And the answer would be it can't. Unless by some bizarre circumstance, Winn-Dixie would sell their 1,750 milliliter bottles of Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, 3-year aged, probably just ancient age, in a Winn-Dixie big bottle. Like if they discounted that to, like, I don't know, you know, some crazily low price. But they're not going it because Winn-Dixie doesn't really do that. They're kind of expensive. They're expensive relative to what you get. What I mean. Generally, not always. Because I got the best deal on the Crown Royal at Winn-Dixie, in fact. The best deal. Even Walmart couldn't beat it. Oh, man, this smells like corn. You know, like, just corn grits that became alcohol now. And that's the truth. And this smells the same way. Our Chihuahua. It's like corn on corn. Could go to North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa and just go and just see corn everywhere. Don't they have a stadium, like the corn stadium or something? Football. So it, I don't know. I've had expensive bourbons to try, like Pappy Van Winkle. What was that? The 18-year aged, cost a fortune. Sure, it was fabulous, you know, but still, at the when you reduce the fraction down to the lowest common denominator, it was still just a lot of corn. But don't say that on the internet. People will flip out and go crazy. You will not call bourbon a bunch of corn. What's it made out of? A bunch of corn. Okay. Maybe this one's more charred. And this one's more higher proof or something. Like I'm picking up a little more alcohol action. So I think, not sure, it's not, haven't tasted. I think that's the Tom Sims and I think that's the Jim Beam. But let's go ahead with the taste, heck. That's pretty smooth, I guess. And it is smooth and medium bodied, moderately lingering finish. Aren't those all the tasting points I brought up when I did Tom Sims? I think so, yes. It's basic. Basic. Just like standard Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And you say, well, it's $9.99 a bottle, so why are you making a big deal out of it? Exactly. So it would be similar to Ancient Age, which is 3-year age. This is 4-year. Not a big difference. I would maybe gravitate toward this because it's 4-year age. But then on the other hand, maybe I'd gravitate toward the Ancient Age because it's sour mash bourbon, straight bourbon, and this one isn't. So, but you know, that would be the considerations you'd be making on these. I'm gonna open my eyes now. It seems to be that this is a higher proof item. But these things can be deceptive. It can be tricky. That's why I go slow on these, because I'm always scared I'm going to rush through and be, you know, flummoxed or something, exasperated, like I can't get it. And they're hard. These are not easy. Like you say, I know bourbon. I work with bourbon. Senator, you're no bourbon. I understand that. But I think it can be a little more difficult than you might believe if you do the blind taste test. If you're just drinking it and you know what's what, there's so many biases that we're not aware of. And it can get you messed up. So blind taste test, so important, so important. You see, this one over here has a sweetness to it, a candy corn. And then there's a tap water. You say tap water, you're going out of your mind. Well, that's what they're using, right? Tap water could be from Kentucky. Okay, limestone water, but it's still tap water. All right, so there is a tap water flavor there. I'm not joking. Not being cheeky and sarcastic. I'm saying that is what I'm picking up. And it's not bad. It's not unpleasant in any way, but it's there. Here, little elevated wood, a little elevated char, and a little elevated alcohol. All right. So I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure, mostly sure, that that's the Jim Beam and that's the Tom Sims. Tom Sims is an old brand, been on the market since 1956. Was an independent distillery, but it was small. They got a picture of it on the label. I mean, it probably looked more modern than that, but it was small, and whiskey's like the beer world is very competitive, and if you're small, you may not make it. And they didn't make it. They shut down, and their brand rights, the rights to the recipe, the recipes and the trademarks and the name was taken up by Heaven Hill. And Sazerac does the same thing like Heaven Hill. They go around cruising around, gobbling up struggling companies. Or maybe even not even struggling per se, but underperforming companies, you see. So Tom Sims, there's a 6-year age. I should have bought that. Oh, what a regret, because I'll probably never see it again. There's this one. Might be a bottle in bond. Now, William Kepley said, I found this astounding. I couldn't believe it was astounding. Last night he said Heaven Hill has over 1,400 brand names. He said he saw that at their tourist center, their visitor center, that they had over 1,400 brand names of liquor. It seems preposterous, like you say. It's crazy. But I don't find it that hard to believe, because my experience with Heaven Hill is that everywhere you turn, they got another one coming around. And they must have hundreds of storefront distillery names. You know what I'm saying? A storefront name. Like, it's not a real name. The company is Heaven Hill, but they'll use all these like alias names, which is allowed by the U.S. government as long as you register it as it's called an assumed name. An assumed name. Especially selected and bottled by Thomas W. Sims Distillery, Bardstown, Kentucky. It doesn't even say it's distilled by them. It says selected in bottles. So could Heaven Hill have bought these whiskeys from other companies? Sure, but it is from Kentucky because it says Kentucky bourbon whiskey. But okay, you hear what I said? There's no such company as Thomas Sims Distillery. It's an assumed name, and they call it an assumed name. Sazerac does the same thing. They all do it. Is it deceptive? It is deceptive, but it's not illegal. The U.S. government allows it as long as it's registered, because what their theory is, the U.S. government is saying, look, you're the consumer. If you're not lazy, get on the internet or call the company and find out who owns it. If you don't want to call, forget about it. You're drinking it. You know, it's like the guy wanting to sue Blue Moon and Coors because he said he thought Blue Moon was a craft beer. And he sued him because he found out it was owned by Coors. That was thrown out of court. The judge says, first of all, there's no way you could establish a tort. You could say that you had damage from that. Secondly, you know, you obviously enjoyed Blue Moon because you were buying it to drink. And secondly, craft beer is not a legal term. It's a marketing term. It has no legal standing. It's like craft vodka. It's a meaningless term. It doesn't mean anything except in your mind. In your mind. Okay. There's almost like a people make fun of me for this, and I don't get angry about it because I do say it a lot, but there's almost like a bread dough taste. Bread dough. It doesn't say sour mash though. They'll usually tout that, you know. I've heard people say they tote it. I say tote. You mean tout. T-O-U-T, tout. Tote means like you're carrying something. Like a tote bag. Ronnie S. Morning, Ryan. Hey, it's Ronald talking to Ronald. Hey, Ronnie S. All right. That's the Jim Beam. Is it better? I wouldn't necessarily say that. Would I pay an extra $387? No, I'm sorry, well, not $387. $2.90. $2.92 more for it. Would I pay $2.92 extra for it? Only if I was wanting to try it and I never had it before. But if I was just looking for some bourbon to have in my house, I'll just get the Tom Sims, because if it is worse than the Jim Beam, it's so minimal that it's almost it's a meaningless. There's no practical difference between the quality of these two products, okay? There might be a difference if you argued it down to like an infinitesimal, you know that word, point. But there's no point to that. Pay the extra $2.92. I'm saying no, I wouldn't pay it because I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing even $1.92 difference. I'm not even seeing 92 cents difference. I'm sorry, I don't have any attachment to Beam-Suntory. In fact, I could be hostile to them in a way because I don't like the way they redone their website. They used to feature all their brands, you know. Now you can barely find out what they make. Julius Kessler whiskey, they don't even talk about it. And even some prominent brands like Old Crow, forget it. Like Old Crow doesn't exist. So yeah, I could be attacking them and maybe favoring Heaven Hill's product, but then I wouldn't do that because their website doesn't tell you too much either about most of their brands. So why would I favor either one? Answer, I wouldn't. And I sure wouldn't favor Sazerac. If there was any company I would favor, it'd be Sazerac because they're headquartered in New Orleans. But their website is the worst. So no. I'm not favoring them. They're both pleasant. What can I say? Is Ron Rio going now? Shoot. Ron Rio. Man, I've got like 75% left in that bottle. I wish it was gone, but I got 75% of it left. I would say at least 70%. Oh, it's got to be 75. Oh, man, that thing is just... You see, when you drink something like Ron Rio... it makes everything else seem so good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to get a perception on products after that. You know, like, there's a lot of people, what do they drink? Old Fitzgerald, Pappy Van Winkle, Four Roses 10-year age special edition. You know what I'm saying? Johnny Walker Double Black, Johnny Walker 18-year age platinum. You know, so that's their arena. Okay. So when they go and drink these kind of things I'm drinking, they just appalled, like, oh, it's so bad. Like, why do you drink that? I'd rather be stabbed through the neck with a knitting needle, you know, stuff like that. Because they're at such a high level, when they come to this, it just seems like they'd rather walk behind the garbage truck. I can understand that. But when you've been drinking Ron Rio, you see, these kind of things are just out of this world. They're so good. They're just so good relative to that. Like with beer, same ideology, same perspective point, viewpoint. I know people that only drink CBS, KBS, Black Albert. My friend David had the Black Albert in his fridge. I said, that's a world-class beer. That's above 100. He said he still had it. I could mention he never offered to share it. Do I hold that against him? No, I don't, because he should be stingy with that. It's $10.99 for 11.2 ounces. But if that's all they drink, then your Budweisers and such as that going to taste like filth. All right. But we were at his house Tuesday, and I know what I'm doing when I do these things. I brought Earthquake 10% high gravity, not the Atrocity of Mankind 12%, which may still be made, the 12%. You feeling bad? Let me tell you something. Drink that and you're going to feel a lot worse. But I brought the 10%. Somebody told me they only make the 8% now. He's wrong. They still make the 10. This is an Anheuser-Busch guy too, but he's been wrong before. I've been wrong before too. So David was like, oh, this thing here, he said, looks like he named a video game, like the label. He said like Tactical Warfare or something. He said, it looks like that label scheme. I said, yeah, they update the label. He wasn't too thrilled with it to start with, but he was curious, you know, but not too looking forward to it. And then I said, I should have done that. I said, you know who makes this? He said, who? I said, the people that make Four Loko Fusion Projects. Oh, if you ever wanted to corrupt somebody's like unbiased viewpoint, mention Four Loko, and they're going to automatically be hostile towards it. That is justified. It is justified. So we drank it before we dumped the rest out, because we had been sampling many products and we didn't want to go too far. Don't go too far, Tony. I'm not, Mel. You are. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So, I'm going to post that video in a few days, I guess. But, and that was bad. See, so once you try Earthquake high gravity, 8%, it's not so bad. But the 10%, a Budweiser, a Miller High Life, a Coors Banquet is going to taste like the greatest thing ever. It's all about relative positioning. So these two here, you know, Ronnie said Ron Rio. After you drink Ron Rio, these are wonderful. You know, these are great. It's great. Havana's great. So I take no issue with either one of these. I'd drink them. I wouldn't care. They taste good to me. In the sense that I don't really like bourbon tastes good to me. I don't really like bourbon, you know, because it tastes like corn. But you know what I'm saying, a relative sense. The Dawn is officially busted, Ron. Does Three Floyd's distribution reach Louisiana? Sadly, they do not. Joe Biden's. I look forward at Total Wine to no avail. Luckily, you couldn't find it. I'm so glad you couldn't find it. I noticed from your Mardi Gras videos that New Orleans needs to go on a diet like the whole city. Yeah. I was wondering if people would notice that. When I posted the videos, I was thinking to myself, I hope nobody notices that everybody in the video is like grossly overweight. But unfortunately, they did. You say, what is this? A video of waddling colossi? Yeah, it's scary. Does Louisiana have a high heart disease and diabetes rate? You know it. You say, I bet you they want everybody else to pay for it too. Like, We need universal health care. I eat candy all day and I drink soft drinks and I eat banquet size portions for breakfast, lunch, supper, and I eat snacks all day. And I'm very ill and I want you to pay for it. Yeah, that's the same mentality, you know. Oh, haha, forgot to tell which was which. All right. Ooh, sky is clear today. The house is doing well. You people are all the same. Come out here and you think you're home. Let me tell you something, partner, you're not home, but that's where we're going to send you if it hair lips the governor. All right, I think this is Tom Sims. Buzzam, oh, how you feel played. Woo-ha, I got you all in check. It is. It is. It is. I knew it from the start. Hey, what can I say? What can I say? Sometimes I get it right. Most of the time I get it right. Sometimes I get it wrong, but we're not talking about that right now. When I get it wrong, I'm shamed, but then I'm hoping nobody watched the video. Okay, he notes my reference. Congratulations, says Ronnie. All right. Make a fool out of me. Make a fool out of me. You know, we can't even get into the count room. All right. Anyway, what? Ma said, freaking head. Enough. Enough. All right. Anyway, I'm making a fool out of you. All right. Anyway, all right. That's it. I said, I'm thinking about it. I know, but they're asking. All right. Anyway, you said I'm bringing heat on you? Ron is my spirit guide to spirits. Thanks, Joe Biden's dentures. All right, that's it. Cheers, Ron. What part of the Irishman did you decide to turn it off? I don't know. It was just terrible. You know, that movie was just horrible. I said, oh man, this is like justifying my whole philosophy of why I hate movies, you know. People always say, "Yo, you ever seen this movie?" And I tell them, I don't watch movies, you know. They shoot the guy in the restaurant in New York City. I'm like, why you got to do that? I mean, there's no point to the scene. We get it. All right, we get that. All right, Martin Scorsese, we get it. You love hyper violence. You have some kind of like perverse fixation on people getting shot and blood and guts. Maybe you're a Satanist. Maybe you're doing this for some kind of like offering or something. I don't understand it. I don't care. You know, there's no point to this. Now, Taxi Driver, 1976, there's a point. I don't know what the point is. I have some theories. I think he was making some oblique allegations towards politicians. Okay. But the Irishman, no. No, 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 no. Want to watch a good movie? Watch Gettysburg from 1993, something like that. Don't watch Eraserhead.